right, hello, good morning. This is James with Remote Concepts. Today, guys, we're going to talk about my Optic H10. I've gotten quite a few questions about what I've done to this truck, so we'll go over some of the things. I'm going to do a video series on another truck that I'm doing a build on to be the same build, and I'll actually list all the parts in that video, and we're going to go through the whole process of making one of these. And you might be wondering what this is. So this is a new Vanquish H10 Optic that I've done a mullet conversion on. And a mullet conversion basically means that it's still got the Optic straight 6-axle in the front, but it's now running, flip this around, a F10 portal in the rear. And to achieve this, I actually bought a VRD kit, carbon kit, along with this truck, and used a lot of the parts from it to build this. So currently at this point, we are running roughly around 42% overdrive in this. And it's a little complicated. It's like a mathematical problem to get there. Could I have gotten to about the same values running the straight axles? Yeah, you could put the 20% overdrives in the front, in the transmission, which we'll talk about, from a VRD, or the upgraded gears for a VFD transmission. But I wanted to do something different, and the mullet actually increases my ground clearance in the rear, having that portaled rear axle in it. So you gain a lot more ground clearance in the rear end, which is something that a straight axle truck can kind of suffer from, is ground clearance, obviously, because you don't have the portal. But it does also lower your center of gravity, which is nice. And this H10 Optic axle is just cool with the faux hydro steering in it. So let's get into breaking this truck down a little bit. If you were to just buy a VRD carbon kit, or the transmission gears that get you the 21% overdrive value, and just bolt it on a portal rear axle, well, one, they would run backwards because you have to flip the diff, and we'll get into that. I'll flip this truck over. But two, with the percentage values that are created with that, you'd end up with a percentage value that's somewhere in the high 60s, mid-high 60s, 66, 67% overdrive, which would just be too much. It's too unusable. Even at 42% overdrive, she's still a little draggy. I mean, the real target range is to get around 38 on the high side, where a VRD carbon is. It's a pretty good sweet spot between really technical crawling and be able to still run this on the trail without basically ripping itself apart after a couple hours. So to get to that gear set value, what I've done is I've actually run a set of overdrive gears from Vanquish, or underdrive gears from Vanquish, in the front axle. And then we're running a VFD carbon transmission in this. So I'll pop the side cover and kind of get you a peek in there. So I got the side covers off this, and here you can see inside we got a VFD carbon transmission. So like I was talking about, with the front ring gear, we've actually underdriven it with a Vanquish set of gears, and then we have 21% with all the cool Vanquish goodies that come with that kit, and that gets us 21% in the transmission. And we'll flip this over and we'll start to examine this rear axle. So when we come to the rear axle, you may notice that the rear pumpkin is actually flipped. So on these F10 axles, you can clearance the inner diff portion to flip the ring gear, the whole housing, the third member. So it creates essentially a low pinion axle, and that allows it to drive the same direction as the front axle. So you don't have two axles going in two different directions. And then in the rear, for the overdrive on the rear, it starts to get a little tricky. Because like I said, if you were to just bolt this together, out of the box, or in kit form, you would end up with way too much overdrive. So we've actually double overdriven the rear end. So we've used a set of hot racing overdrive ring and pinions in that diff that's been flipped, and then used the front original portal axles, the portal gears from the front axle of a VFD carbon to double overdrive the rear. And that gets us to that 42% overdrive value, and you've got better ground clearance from the portal axle. So a few other things that I've done with this is the front shocks are the same stock factory shock. I have changed the oil, running 60 in the front, but I've also put the lowest setting rod ends on this, which does take a little bit of a mod to the steering link to get them to clear, because it pushes them back, but that lowers the truck. That takes this down to like around an 85 millimeter shock. And then in the rear, we're running the VFD carbon 80 millimeter shock with the same shock rod set up on it to lower it again. And then I've pushed them out for a little bit of stability. And we're running the factory spring in the rear. The H10 spring is a little stiffer, and the BRD spring in the front is a little softer. And then this is running currently 70 weight under here in the rear, and it seems to be doing pretty well. I've just put a set of incision drive shafts on this, and there are plans to do a dig. You can see all of my electronics here mounted on the little tray that's supplied with the VFD kit, carbon kit. It's originally a battery tray, or I guess a whatever you want tray, and I used it to hold all the electronics. And then hub wise and wheels and tire wise, currently I'm running a set of 2.2 Chanquish wheels and 5.2 inch tall 2.2 J Concepts Tusk, and these are running a 725 in the front currently with a patty, and an 850 in the rear. Interior weight wise, this is running the 2 wraps in the front, and then 1 wrap in the rear for stick-on weights, and that seems to be doing pretty well. Steering wise, I'm just running a Protec servo in this at the moment, but yeah, steering, I can flip this over and show you the steering link mod I had to make to accommodate putting these lower shock rod ends on this. So here you can see I had to make a little modification to the factory steering drag link. Use a set of the actual tie rod bent links from the VRD kit, and then had to put a little bend in the original steering link to accommodate steering around the shock that's pushed back a little bit. So that worked out, pretty easy mod, but that allows you to put the shorter shocks on there. So there we go. There's a small overview, a little explanation on what this truck is now, and what it took to build it. Like I said, I'm going to do a build series on this. I have a buddy that wants to build one, and he asked me if I'd help him out. So yeah, we're going to do another one and do a YouTube series here on what it takes to break down both of these trucks. Obviously the H10 and VRD carbon kit, and make this a mullet. So kind of a little bit of an expensive endeavor, but you know, you got to pay to play. You want the trick stuff, you got to be willing to go out of the way. So like I said, future plans for this is still planning to put a Hertz 2 dig in this, which should be fun. The wheelbase, the truck drives really well, but the big wheelbase sometimes is a little tough to get maneuvered in small places, even with all the overdrive that's in this. So yeah, dig is just going to make that a little bit easier. And I do have plans for making my own copper panels for a few of these, and patina those out, give this a little bit different look. And I'm waiting on Battleborn 2.2 wheels from Vanquish to release. Come on, guys. Need some new cheddary wheels on this thing. So thanks for enjoying the morning with me. Beautiful day, sunny San Diego here, and explaining kind of what this mullet monster is. It's kind of like a bad 90s rock star. But yeah, thanks for listening to me chatter for a bit. And like I said, we're gonna have a new YouTube video series coming out on this, on what it took to make all that happen. All right, thanks guys. Talk to you later.